So it seems like there's a couple of things going on. Start money goes to the athletes. That can be highly incentivizing. And the other is maybe realizing that beating Tadej for the near future is not possible at this point.
If I'm Florian Lipovitz, I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit. I'm like, hey, guys, did you see what I just did? I mean, I know this guy was third in the Tour, but so was I. And I did it a little bit more recently. But I mean, Remco's Remco. He's an Olympic champion. He's won the Vuelta. He's won the World Championships. So he is a mega star. So if you have a chance to get a guy like Remco, you're going to take it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Podium. I'm Bob Roll, and a very happy new year to all. Welcome to 2026. Not a whole lot going on in the cycling world, but plenty of off-season transfers and some big news coming from Jonas Vingegaard. I'm joined by Tejay Van Garderen. Tejay, where are you at the moment? Where do we find you in this new year?
I just got back to Mallorca, so not exactly a sunny island at the moment. It's kind of rainy and wet, but we got Three Kings Day today, so it's good to be here for the holidays. And it's also good to see that you're in full ski season. Every time you have the beard, you know that you're somewhere skiing.
I've been out in the snow today, so it's extra white to start the show. A few snowflakes getting in there. So we heard recently that it seems as if Jonas Vingegaard will start his Grand Tour season at the Giro d'Italia, which I don't think he's ever done before. My main question when I heard that was, has he given up on trying to beat Tadej Pogačar at the Tour de France? I'm sure that's not the case, but there might be a little element in wanting to get some results, not against Tadej Pogačar in the Giro. So what do you make about news from Visma that Jonas will be doing the Giro to start the Grand Tours this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. It's he's won the Tour twice. He's just won the Vuelta. He wants to complete the trifecta. I don't know if the Giro maybe sweetened the pot a little bit. I mean, it's not unheard of for that race to kind of allure some star power by, giving a little under the table cash. So I don't know if that's a reason, but at the same time, it's like Tadej Pogačar is so dominant in all the races that he's done. And if you look at these last two tours, Jonas wasn't even close. So if he's going to want to etch his name in the history books, he might have to start ducking and dodging a little bit of a Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao style, just kind of pick the easier fights.
So it seems like there's a couple of things going on. Start money goes to the athletes. That can be highly incentivizing. And the other is maybe realizing that beating Tadej for the near future is not possible at this point. And to be honest, and also I want to add another element. When the teams look at the race routes for the Grand Tours, oftentimes the stars will choose one or the other that's better suited. So maybe Visma realizing that this year's Tour de France is perfect for Tadej Pogačar.
Bob, it's hard to find a race out there that's not perfectly suited to Tadej Pogačar.
That's true.
So yeah, I mean, they might have looked at the race route, might have had something to do with it, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to be like, we'll show up to the Tour. I bet he's still going to do the Giro Tour double, kind of like Tadej Pogačar did a few years ago, and it'll be like if he shows up to the Tour. Or maybe he's also just trying a different approach to the Tour. Maybe he's going to line up at the Giro, try to win it, and then back it up and say, maybe he felt stronger at the Vuelta in 2025. And he said, you know what, actually doing a Grand Tour set me up and my legs were amazing in the Vuelta. So why don't I replicate that and do the Giro to try to be at my best for the Tour?
Well, it seemed to work for Tadej the year before last when he did the double. I mean, Jonas was fantastic. In spite of a little bit of congestion and, upper respiratory stuff going on halfway through the Vuelta, he was so strong in the final week. Maybe it's the double Grand Tour is the recipe for success for Jonas in the Tour de France. Let me ask you this. Let's say you're Tadej Pogačar and you read the headlines that Jonas is going to start with the Giro. Are you more worried or less worried that doing the double for Jonas, or are you? I'm sure Tadej does all of whatever worrying there needs to be done. Tadej does as far as being competitive and ready to win. But what do you make of UAE, how they would approach the tour after? I mean, I don't see anybody except Tadej beating Jonas in a Grand Tour. That's for sure.
Yeah, Jonas is still the second best Grand Tour rider in the peloton today. So it's going to be interesting to see what keeps Tadej hungry. I mean, he's been so dominant. Obviously, he's going to be highly motivated to get number 5 because that's going to put him in the pantheon of Tour de France winners. But then also, I think he's going to want to chase some more stages. I think he's going to be a little bit less magnanimous than he was last year, and especially if João Almeida can get through healthy and can mow down some of those breakaways for him and, rack up some of that stage win tally. I think that's going to surely keep Tadej motivated.
Well, I think I'm going to be more motivated to myself to watch how Jonas goes in the Giro, and we can use a lot of that information looking forward to the Tour de France.
Yeah, and it's going to be an exciting Giro. I mean, no matter what, if you have a big star lining up to a race, it's going to attract some eyeballs. And the Giro d'Italia, they know that, and they want those big stars like Jonas coming there. I mean, obviously, we would like to see all the stars full strength, going full gas, head-to-head in the Tour in a tight battle. But I think people are just realizing that with Tadej there's no such thing as tight battles.
Well, if you're Visma and you're trying to maximize the exposure from your athletes that you pay a lot of money to race, maybe realizing that Tadej's probably barring catastrophe, going to win the Tour, and they won the Giro and the Vuelta last year. Why not start with Jonas in the Giro this year?
Absolutely. If you end the season, say, second at the Tour with a Giro d'Italia victory and a few other wins along the way, it's hard to call that a failure. So, yeah, I think it's a good plan that Visma has hatched, and I also think, like, if this different approach, I'm actually really curious to see if he's going to show up to the Tour better than he has the past couple of years with a Grand Tour in his legs.
All right. Well, time will tell. I'm looking forward to Jonas in the Giro d'Italia for the first time, if I'm not mistaken. Big transfer season. I think the biggest news coming from Soudal Quickstep with Remco Evenepoel changing teams to join Primož Roglič and Florian Lipovitz, by the way, who got third in the Tour on the Red Bull squad. I mean, that's got to be the headline of all of the transfers, even though there were plenty in the offseason. But Remco going to Red Bull to join Primož, that's the biggest headline of the offseason for sure for me.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And Remco's the one guy out there saying, you know what, I can get better. I can compete with Tadej. I'm going to the Tour to actually win. Now, for my eyes, he would need probably quadruple the amount of time trialing kilometers to even get put into the conversation. But yeah, absolutely. That was a huge, huge transfer. And it's kind of shaken things up at Red Bull there, because we just saw that Roglič is going to not do the Tour de France in order to try to make history and win a record-setting, I believe it's 5th Vuelta. So you got a lot of this sort of ducking and dodging, even within teammates. Like, you got Jonas, who's going to the Giro. You got Roglič just saying he doesn't even want to do the Tour to do the Vuelta. I think, like everyone, they're just trying to find wherever they can to get to maximize their own success. And, I respect that 100%. You want to end your career with the biggest palmares that you can possibly get. But at the same time, I'm also like, man, I just want to see all these guys battling head to head.
I agree 100%. Let's compare Soudal to Red Bull and the resources they have. In your estimation, does that give Remco maybe a really good opportunity to take advantage of those and take another big step forward in his career?
Well, obviously, Soudal, they had Tim Merlier, so they're not going to be splitting resources between the best sprinter in the world while also having GC aspirations. So that right there, I think that the team is going to be all in to just focus on GC. However, when we watched the Tour last year, we saw a very dominant Visma. We saw a very dominant UAE, obviously. Red Bull, they were always kind of taking a back seat. They were kind of bleeding time early in the stages. They weren't really like putting their nose in the wind. Roglič was obviously just kind of always on the back foot, not making the splits. And, Florian Leibowitz, once the race was already just a two-horse race, just kind of clawed his way up to the podium. I haven't seen Red Bull really just like stamp their authority on the peloton and stick their nose in the wind the same way that these other squads have. So I don't know. Time will tell. I mean, they've had a huge shakeup in the management there. A lot of directors, they've just kind of overhauled the whole thing and said, okay, we're bringing in fresh blood. I think they're going to be like, this is the new standard, guys. We got Remco here now, so we're going to race this thing differently. And I think they will be in that conversation.
Do you imagine Florian Lipovitz, after getting third, will be that comfortable helping somebody else? And they had a sort of, Primož and Florian to sort of protect during the Tour. If you're Florian Lipovitz and you hear that they've just signed Remco, maybe not the best headline in your career at this point.
If I'm Florian Lipovitz, I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit. I'm like, hey, guys, did you see what I just did? I mean, I know this guy was third in the Tour, but so was I. And I did it a little bit more recently. But I mean, Remco's Remco. He's an Olympic champion. He's won the Vuelta. He's won the World Championship. So he is a mega star. So if you have a chance to get a guy like Remco, you're going to take it. However, Florian Lipovitz, he's a young kid. Not only was he third, he also was the white jersey. So he's young, and he's got plenty of years ahead of him. And he's going to develop. He's only going to get better. He's only going to get stronger. He hasn't even been racing that long. So if I'm him, I'm like, look, I might not want to share my toys with you.
Absolutely. That's going to be a very interesting dynamic to follow throughout the year, and especially in the Tour de France. The other big transfer, in my estimation, was Juan Ayuso to the Lidl Trek squad. And Lidl, very ambitious, the way they raced throughout the season, and especially in this transfer season, signing up Juan Ayuso from the juggernaut UAE squad. I think that was maybe, as long as Juan can get the best out of himself, a good decision by Lidl Trek. That remains to be seen, but it doesn't seem to me that Juan Ayuso was riding at his very best for the UAE squad. Do you see that changing with Lidl Trek?
I hope so, for one. I'm a big Juan Ayuso fan. Now, he obviously, it was a bit crowded, especially GC-wise, when you went to UAE. I mean, Tadej Pogačar is obviously going to be the main guy. Juan Ayuso wants to be the main guy, but he was also having competition with other guys, João Almeida. That team is just so stacked that it was hard to get any breathing room for him there. He will have a bit more freedom in Lidl Trek. However, they still have Mads Pedersen. They still have Jonathan Milan. They still have Matheus Skelmosa. So he's also going to have to share some of that leadership as well. I almost, and I remember having this conversation with Christian, that I almost thought it would have been better for Juan Ayuso to go to a team like Tudor, a second tier team, the same way that Tom Pidcock did when he went to Q365, where he would just have the entire team at his disposal. And it's like, whenever he stepped in the door, it's like, guys, I am the man. Because I think that's how Juan Ayuso likes it. I think he doesn't really like working for others. I think he really likes going there with the full backing of the team, and that's when he's at his best. But I wish him the best at Lidl Trek. But Bob, I also wanted to bring up one more really interesting transfer, and that's Oscar Onley going to Ineos. Do you think this is going to be the catalyst to get Ineos back into that Grand Tour conversation?
With Kevin Vauquelin, by the way, also. So that could be I feel like Ineos did the best offseason they've done in a long time.
That is true. Yeah, that's going to be I really think that they just thrust themselves back in the conversation with that Oscar Onley and Kevin Vauquelin, because again, Oscar Onley, he is so young. I can't think off the top of my head how young he is, but he was also in the white jersey conversation right there with Florian Lipovitz. So I think he's only going to get better, and he just had a phenomenal season last year.
So Ayuso, Evenepoel, Vingegaard. who provides Tadej with the biggest challenge at this year's Tour de France? All things considered.
Yeah, well, like I said, I am curious about the Jonas Giro, if that's going to leave him fatigued or if that's going to actually put him in better footing for the Tour. But I can't bet against Jonas. But if I were to pick any name, I'd say Isaac Del Toro. Maybe his own teammate can might end up coming from behind just within his own ranks.
All right, that remains to be. I feel that Isaac will be a better teammate to Tadej than Primož was to Florian Lipovitz at the Tour.
That is 100% true. That's 100% true. No, Isaac Del Toro, he seems like a very loyal guy.
All right, one last bit of business. Wout van Aert loves cyclocross, lives for cyclocross. When is it time for Wout to call time on his career after breaking his ankle a couple days ago in the snow in Mole and maybe being out of the classics conversation?
Man, Wout van Aert just can't seem to catch a break, can he? I feel so bad for that guy. He has just had such a mega talent. When he is on form, he is just unstoppable. But he just seems to catch all of these just bad luck, just can't catch a break. But I'm surprised. If I were Visma, I'd say, look, man, we are going to keep you wrapped in bubble wrap for the entire off season. You're going to ride your bike. We are going to have convoys around you because we need to protect this asset. I remember Greg Van Avermaet one year actually broke his leg doing a cyclocross race, but that was the year he was second in Flanders and won Paris-Roubaix. So maybe this little bit of forced rest and not actually racing the intensity of the cyclocross season, every now and then these things, they work out that way. They might just be a blessing in disguise, getting that little bit of rest, get him off the bike, get him healthy. He'll come into April a little bit fresher, having not logged in all these base miles and all these training camps. Who knows? These things have a funny way of playing out. We can't predict it, but I hope for Wout van Aert, I hope the best for him. I hope to see him at full strength during the classics. But if I'm Visma, I'm saying no more cyclocross for you, my friend.
Well, you guys have signed a new American talent for your squad anyways. Kevin Vermarke coming over. You looking forward to working with Kevin, another American on the EF team?
We signed Luc Lampretti. I actually think Kevin Vermarke signed for UAE, if I'm not mistaken.
Excuse me. I meant Luc Lampretti. Sorry, I'm mixing my with American cyclists. There's too many fast guys.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much American talent, and they're going to some heavy-hitting squads. And Luke, I am super, super thrilled to have him on the team. What a cool guy. And he's a sprinter, but he's this kind of maybe can mold himself into a kind of Michael Matthews style sprinter because he can climb. He's got that high 1 minute power. I think he was a really good lead out guy for Tim Merlier, so he was learning under the best. He's going to bring some of that Soudal wisdom with us here to EF. And we got some fast guys coming to EF. We got Noah Hobbs, Marijn van den Berg's coming back. We got Matas Mikkels coming back. And now Luc Lampretti to round it out. And I think it's going to be exciting to see how all these sprinters gel together because they're all very different. And having this lead out style, okay, you take this one, but this stage suits me. But yeah, Luc Lampretti, super thrilled to have him on board. He's a very professional, very mature young man. And I think he's going to win us some bike races.
Well, our producer has just chimed in that Oscar Onley just turned 23 in October. So Ineos,
wow, super young,
are on the horizon. And another young American, Matthew Riccatello, has changed teams. He'll be racing for Decathlon next year with Olaf Koy, the Dutch sprinter who's on Visma, never had a chance to do the Tour de France. Watch for Decathlon to finally start having some results, considering the investment they've made in the sport in recent years.
Yeah, Decathlon, they are quickly putting themselves in the conversation of one of those super teams. I mean, they just made a massive investment into that team. And Riccatello, he's also one of those kind of quietly super exciting young Americans. I mean, power to weight ratio, he's got to be in the conversation of one of the top 5 climbers in the world. Needs to work on his bike handling skills a little bit, but I think we saw in the Vuelta last year that he's come a long way, and I think that decathlon team, it's going to be a force next year. And Olaf Koy, I can't believe when you said that he's never raced the Tour, I was like, I kind of did a double take. I was like, is that true? Olaf Koy's never raced the Tour? It's about dang time.
Exactly. It's going to be a great battle with the sprinters in the Tour de France next year. But in my estimation, we have been, I have personally been a little bit disappointed and critical of the Ineos results based on their budget. And maybe Geraint Thomas on the other side of the coin, on the other side of the camera, will be, behind the scenes instead of racing, is retired, and now will be a part of the management. It seems like Geraint has already made some very clever moves.
Absolutely. And I said this a couple of weeks back on another episode, that imagine like Deion Sanders or Nick Saban sitting on the couch of some of these like young kids coming out of the under 23 ranks, or out of the juniors even, because we're signing them so young now, that if you have Geraint Thomas sitting there on the couch, like sipping the mom's coffee, eating their pies, saying, we're interested in your boy, do you think that kid or those parents are going to say no? So I am envisioning some serious talent coming to Ineos because of the role that Geraint Thomas just took over.
And what do you imagine Ineos has to do, considering their roster and results, to, let's be honest, it was the best team in the teens of professional cycling and just dominated everything. And it's been 5 solid seasons since we've seen that happen. How are we going to measure their success this time next year?
Well, I would like to see at minimum a podium in the Tour, and I think your best bet there is going to be with Oscar Onley. I think they have a pretty filled out roster. They're going to have Egan Bernal, who's, a former Tour winner. People forget that, but he's coming back into some really good form. Not, that crash, I don't think we're ever going to see him back at his best, but he's a solid support. We got Kevin Vauclain, and I don't know if I'd like to see a podium in the Tour, and I'd like to see a monument win from them, and maybe an outside shot to win one of the other big tours. I think that is the standard that we need to hold Ineos to.
I don't see a guy, honestly, winning a Grand Tour on the Ineos roster currently. Maybe they're a little bit more modest.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Oscar Onley is the man for the Tour. That'd be a little tough for a guy of his age to back it up again at the Vuelta or do the Giro. So, Carlos Rodriguez, I'm a little bit underwhelmed with how he's developed. I actually, after that one tour that he did, that spectacular tour where he won a stage, and I think he might have been 3rd overall, or 3rd or 4th. I was expecting him to kind of take that next step. I'm wondering what's it going to take for him to really reach that next level of promise that we saw in the year 2024, I believe it was.
Yeah. Well, time will tell whether or not Ineos can get back to the best with Geraint Thomas, and I guess Dave Brailsford is back in the hand. But all of those questions will start to be answered in just a few days when the Tour Down Under starts in a week's time, I believe. So we'll have a preview of that next week, everybody. And TJ, thanks a million, as always. And hopefully the sun will start shining in Mallorca before too long.
I hope so. I hear it's shining really, really hard down there in Adelaide with some 40 degrees Celsius temperatures. So that's they're going to be in for a warm one down there. But man, I cannot believe how short this off season is these days. I feel like the season just ended, and now I'm like already back in Mallorca, and the racing season's just around the corner. But I can't wait, man.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thanks a million for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Podium. Thanks, TJ. See you soon.
Good to see you, Bobby.
For all your cycling content year-round, subscribe to NBC Sports YouTube page. We got it all.